now. So let me introduce our next speaker. So Raffaele Mauro is a partner at Primo Space, venture capital fund focused on space economy. He previously led Endeavor Italia and worked with United Ventures, P101, and Intesa Sanpaolo to support high-tech enterprises. So please welcome Raffaele Mauro.
Thank you. So, I'm the object separating you from the lunch, so I'll try to be engaging and quick. Can I have the presentation, please? Okay. Sì.
La duplicazione dal computer.
Ok, vai prego. Sì. So, okay, in the meantime, so today's presentation will be about the space economy, space markets, technology, and also at the end, what will be the impact on the I world and the kind of intersection of technologies. Please? It works? Okay, fantastic. So my background, I'm an investor, so I'm not a technologist. My perspective, my point of view is from a person that is looking for emerging technologies and when they are going from underground to overground and make an impact on the world. I'm running Primo Space. Primo Space is a deep tech venture capital fund focused on the space economy, as you can guess from the name. It's an 86 million euros fund. It was the first one in continental Europe with a focus on space technology. Now there are many others in France, Germany, Spain, and Luxembourg. And we invested in a portfolio of different kinds of companies across the whole value chain of the space economy, from companies building satellite technology, launch technology, ground station and telecommunication technologies, materials, systems, electronics, and also software applications in order to apply Earth observation data, especially to Earth industries. I will go more in depth about that. So let's start with the space economy. Of course, the single thing that fires the imagination is the presence of humans in space, human space flight. Okay, we had historically approximately 650 human beings in space, so above 100 kilometers above ground, and this number is increasing a lot now because we have not just the traditional space flight but also the commercial private space flight. But this is not the center of our talk because spaceflight actually is a small slice, human spaceflight of the space economy. We had in space some great, magnificent engineering projects like the International Space Station. This is truly unique because it's the product of a geopolitical area that is not anymore possible today. It was the product of the end of the Cold War, so a global collaboration between the United States, Russia, Europe, Canada, Japan, and our future will not be like that. So our future will be that the conflicts on Earth will be mirrored in Earth orbit, and there will be multiple space projects, multiple space stations, not just for the good reasons, but also for bad reasons, I would say. The most important transition in the space economy is the shift from the almost unique relevance of governments to the relevance of the private sector. If you want to provide numbers, the space economy is approximately $6 billion large in terms of size, depending on how do you calculate what is space and what is not space, because space actually is an environment where other industries are doing things mostly. And it is projected to be 1.8 trillion in the next 10 years. It's actually a relatively old industry because in telecommunication and other subfields it's already active since the 60s, but a lot of things are changing now. The most peculiar thing about space is the fact that it's an environment which is very costly, very risky to reach. Okay, it's not a traditional form of transportation. In order to put a payload in Earth orbit, there are different types of orbits, you need to spend a lot of money and you need to embrace risk. Okay, we had during the last 65 years approximately 7,000 rocket launches. Now we are running approximately to 300 launches per year, so we are reaching the level of 1 launch per day. That's amazing, and there is a lot of innovation there. One of the 2 key dynamics here now is the creation of a Moore's law for space. So the cost to put a kilogram of matter in low Earth orbit is decreasing very quickly. So it was millions of dollars decades ago, then hundreds of thousands of dollars, then tens of dollars today. And if you buy like a whole Falcon 9 space cargo space, you pay like $5,000 per kilogram. And with the new innovation of the Starship rocket system, it will be like 500 euros per kilogram. So that's very interesting. So there is why this is important, because like in electronics and computer science, this is basically enabling the proliferation of startups and projects and scientific research. Of course, one of the key elements and actually quite unexpected element of the decrease of the cost was the reusability. That's important because up until like 15 years ago, it was considered almost impossible by most people, and now we have this. So try to imagine, if you have to buy a ticket for a train or a plane or a bus, and you have to go from location A to location B, and you have to like destroy the bus, the train, or the plane for each single travel, what will be the price of the ticket? So even if you can reuse an object, a launcher, for like 8 times, 10 times, the impact on the cost is super interesting. And another innovation is that we have a new generation of cargo vehicles, both for equipment and for people. That's relevant because the space shuttle program went into its pensioning a decade ago, and there was a period of some years that where it was very hard to put humans in space. Now we have a choice among different cargos. But let's go to the most relevant part of the space economy, so where economic value is generated, and it's generated by satellites. So we have in orbit now approximately 14,000 satellites. Like 8 out of 10 are still working. Some of them are basically garbage, and it's a relatively old technology, but improving a lot. Why? Because satellites are like computers. So they have inputs, sensors, they have outputs, actuators or telecommunication systems, and in between there is some form of computation. And there is actually, for satellites, another kind of Moore's law, because over time they're becoming cheaper, smaller, and more efficient, and they can do more things. Okay, so, and actually the new wave of satellites is called CubeSats or small sats, nanosats. They are like smartphones. They weigh approximately 1 kilogram of weight, 10 centimeters of length, and they can be also chained together in modules like Lego bricks, and you can have a single CubeSat specialized for one single type of sensing, for instance, and other CubeSats for other applications that you need to perform in orbit. That's super interesting because if you combine the decreasing launch costs and the magnification of the things that you can do with a single object, that's an interesting combination. In terms of applications, the core of the space economy today is like building application on Earth with the satellite infrastructure. Okay, satellite infrastructure is positioned in different kinds of orbits. Now the most populated one is the low Earth orbit, and there are a lot of industries that are impacted by that, like telecommunication, agriculture, logistics, and so on. Telecommunication is one of the oldest ones. We already use the satellites for radio, television, and other applications. But the new thing is the merging between the satellite infrastructure and the digital economy, so the internet economy. So internet access is now mediated at an increasing pace from satellite infrastructure, and most of the internet companies and digital large providers, they have some kind of space project, okay? And they are buying actually space startups like Apple, Uber, Meta, they basically did some kind of form of M&A regarding space startups because they want to build capabilities because that part of infrastructure is relevant for multiple reasons. The second key technology for space is observation and mapping. We know very well about that, but the interesting part is that the granularity, the resolution, the quality, and also the quality of interpretation, and actually artificial intelligence is very relevant for that, is increasing over time. So you can detect interesting things on Earth, that you can apply this for multiple reasons. One of the oldest reasons was military intelligence is still super relevant, but there are, of course, civil or civic applications for environment, for finance, for infrastructure monitoring, for energy, logistics, and so on. The third key application for satellites is positioning systems. Every one of us know very well that when you open Uber or Glovo or Deliveroo, you are applying, you are in some sense connected with the satellite applications because you are applying the positioning systems. The relevant trend today is that most geopolitical blocs, they want their own positioning system. Why? Because it's truly key technology for the basically combat applications. If you want to move troops, command troops, you need to know where the location is. And for instance, what is happening now in the war in Ukraine is that there is on a daily basis, the GPS system is hacked on the field. So there is a huge wave also of cybersecurity applications for space. And of course, there is the scientific applications. Actually, this is another one of the oldest ones. We have a lot of satellites exploring the solar system, and a few ones actually in the interstellar, so going outside our solar system in order to explore the universe. That's quite cool and very interesting. A couple of notes about space and geopolitics. The space industry was always deeply connected with international relations and politics for two reasons, basically. The first one is that there is an actual direct application of space infrastructure for the military, and the second one is symbolic. So if you can reach some kind of milestone in space, typically this is a proxy for your state capability. And even if like a specific target, like going on the moon, has no direct economic reason or political reasons, you can generate, you can do this because you want to be the first, you want to show that your socio-economic system is able to do that. And that's interesting because during the last 20 years, like the symbolic part was decreasing, and now is increasing again. So there is a new space competition, especially between the United States and China, and for moon projects and Mars projects. In terms of direct military applications, again, the intelligence and Earth observation is the most important one, but there is a second one which is emerging, which is the ASAT rockets. So now a lot of countries, United States, Russia, China, India, they can shoot a rocket from Earth and like targeting a single satellite, so a non-cooperative object in orbit, and destroy it. That's super interesting because it's not an easy thing to do, and because it's a major source of space debris. So if you destroy a satellite, there is a cloud of fragments that can be of non-cooperative fragments that will be dangerous for other systems. For instance, Russia tested one anti-satellite rocket like 1 month before the start of the war in Ukraine, and according to someone, so that was done on purpose in order to generate a cloud of debris to basically damage the Starlink system. And a lot of things are happening there. Today, another very interesting very interesting development is the satellite hacking, so the jamming of electronic signals and computing systems of satellites. And there are a lot of things happening actually in these months regarding this part. One of the major satellite constellation in the world, which is the Starlink constellation, actually has a part of it is called Starshield, which is the part that was separated for the defense applications, and was actually relevant for last war in Europe, and some countries like Germany, Poland, they donated a lot of systems for using it on the field. Another development is the fact that military power is specializing also for space. Like historically, at least since the beginning of the last century, we had 3 or 4 branches. So the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army. Now we have, at least in the United States, like a specific military force just for space. So it's not like a branch of the Air Force, there is a different kind of chain of command. In most countries, like in Italy or in other European countries, typically space power is like a cooperation of the other military branches or a part of the Air Force. In the United States, they have now a dedicated military force just for space. And that's a major source of actually contracts for space companies and space startups in the United States now today. So most of the startups that we speak to, they are some kind of using the Space Force grants, and in the United States, of course, not in Europe. There is also a parody show in Netflix. China, that's interesting also because in the media, typically the Chinese space programs are not so much commented. Actually, a lot of people do not know that there is a second international space station now, which is not the international one, is the Chinese one, the Tiangong, which is growing over time with additional modules. And there is a very ambitious moon program that will be deployed during during the next years. People often are surprised that they underestimate the magnitude of the Chinese space program, which is going very quickly. And I saw that there was, in the other room, there was a talk about quantum computing. There is another branch of quantum technologies called quantum cryptography, and there is, and China is very advanced there also for satellite-based systems for quantum cryptography. That's interesting because in this kind of typology of cryptography, you do not apply a purely mathematical approach. You base the security of your systems also on physics. So space entrepreneurship. One of the key changes during the last years was the shift from large military contractors or Air Force contractors like Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Thales, Airbus, and so on, to space startups. I'm sure that in every single talk there was a slide like this one regarding disruption of fintech, quantum, and so on. There is a wave of space entrepreneurs. Sorry, if you want the... there is a wave of space entrepreneurs that are basically disentangling the most of the aspects of core space technologies and making them faster, cheaper, easier to access, and smarter, often. Typically, space entrepreneurs, what they do, they apply, new space entrepreneurs apply learnings from other industries, typically the digital or technology or internet industry, to the space industry. For instance, like lean organization systems, the application of 3D printing, AI system, computational design, and so on. So for instance, I met this team a few years before this photo. They were, at the time, just a group of friends at the NASA Ames base in Mountain View. They were hacking 3D printers in order to make them operational also in microgravity conditions. Then they had the grants and some funding. They tested the system. Here is not on the space station, is on an airplane simulating microgravity conditions. And then actually their system was tested on the International Space Station. It's called Made in Space, the company, and then was acquired by another aerospace company. So they had the traditional trajectory of a startup. And there are a lot of them. In Italy, for instance, one of the most well-known space startup is The Orbit. They launched quite a little bit more than 10 years ago. They have now 300 employees, and they are deploying space logistics systems. So this kind of product that you can see on the right is the ION system, and it serves to position in the to the target trajectory the satellite when they are already reached the low Earth orbit. And they are great. So Another phenomenon was the emergence of the space barons, so people that made their fortune in other industries, typically in the internet industry, but also in other commercial industries, and then they applied their wealth and they put a bet on the space economy. Typically, most of them, Musk, Bezos, Branson, they started in the beginning of the year 2000s. Branson was not so much successful, but the other two are doing interesting things. In particular, the elephant in the room is SpaceX. SpaceX is now valued $300 billion. Is one of the largest private-owned companies in the world. 12,000 employees, and they have what is interesting is that they have a very deep vertical integration. So they deliver both hardware products from launch to satellite constellations and all the services. Okay, so they are in a very robust position from this point of view. And if you look at the launch statistics, in 2024, SpaceX performed 50% of the global launch capability, which is a lot. So it's more than any single state, any single other company. Mostly with the Falcon 9. So when you look at space companies in Europe, most of them actually are using the Falcon 9 to especially the small private companies, they use the Falcon 9 to put their payload in orbit. Okay, I think we are running out of time, so I am going faster here, so I will not focus on the single rockets. So let's say that Starlink is relevant because is a way to make the balance sheet, so the budget of SpaceX, as much as independent as possible from government funds. Because until now, SpaceX was heavily dependent on government subsidies, and it was supplying contracts. And the Starlink is interesting because they have the retail clients, so they can diversify their budget and being more independent. But anyway, it will always be connected with the government contracts, I think, for almost forever. So Elon Musk, I'm not going to politics. I would say that Elon Musk has demonstrated an increased level of odd behavior during the last few years, 14 children with 5 women, tweeting crazy things and so on. My message today is not about Elon Musk, it's about another person, because I think that the historians of the future will remember her. So Gwynne Shotwell, basically, she's the adult in the room in SpaceX. She has the same role, a similar role to Eric Schmidt in Google, or Sandberg in Meta. So basically, she was one of the first employees in SpaceX, and according to the most analysts, she is actually running the company, much more than Elon Musk, which is more visible and doing fundraising and so on. But she's running the company, and I think when we will write the business history of SpaceX, her role will be highlighted. A couple of notes about AI. The first thing is that space is a meta industry. So it's based on the intersection of different industries, and it's a place where other industries, they do things, and also other technologies, they have some kind of recombination. So for instance, when we invest in startups, most of them do not have only like space engineers. They need people with hardware competencies, software competencies, design competencies. So it's a very complex environment, but very stimulating from the intellectual point of view. There are positive applications for space. So there are, of course, the traditional spin-offs. So if you test systems and technologies and materials for extreme environments, you can apply them, this kind of research, for other traditional Earth applications. There is a relevance for biomedical research, high-quality jobs, and so on. I will just deep dive a little bit about biomedics, because that's super interesting. So there is the International Space Station, for instance, has a lot of research regarding pharmaceutical compounds, microbiology, and tissue growth, because it's very interesting to see how biological materials evolve over time in particular conditions of microgravity or without the constraints of like traditional Earth labs. Like if you need to do a study for oncology, you can study much easier the three-dimension development of a tumor in microgravity rather than in traditional gravitational pool. And of course, the medical technologies developed for the astronauts in the International Space Stations, they are constantly applied on Earth. Regarding space and AI, there are different waves of application. The things that you see here are not just purely theoretical. We actually invested in a lot of companies developing AI systems for space applications or space technology for Earth applications, leveraging also machine learning algorithms and similar. And I will list a few examples. Okay, historically, of course, one of the most important application of automation was for probes, rovers, robots. Why? Because space is a risky environment. It's a place where human beings are not made to be, and even in the future, even if human spaceflight will evolve a lot, like the ratio of robots to humans will be like 10,000 to 1, okay? So space is for artificial intelligence, space is for robots. Second one is spacecraft automation. When you need like a lot of precision between non-cooperative objects, of course, automation is key. And various forms of optimization are used for algorithms for that. Satellite operations, now that we have to manage constellations of hundreds of satellites, this is done increasingly with artificial intelligence, and humans decrease their impact over time, in general. We have also drone ships for the landing of rockets, of reusable rockets. That's of space. For instance, SpaceX has a fleet of 4 autonomous drone ships in order to land the rockets in a very safe way. And space robotics. Space robotics will not be humanoid mostly like you see here. It was mostly non-humanoid, but there's a cool picture. And that's relevant for assisting astronauts in different ways. There are a lot of also marketing projects, like there are like astronaut assistants floating in space, like the ball from Star Wars. But I would say this is more marketing than a real application, but just to show. But if you want to look at what, for instance, scientists are doing every day, there was a very interesting wave of research for exoplanets. So with the new space telescopes, we can detect massive amounts of data, and detecting exoplanets is one of the greatest, I would say, achievements of the science during the last decades. Galaxy classification, as you know, from classification systems are some of the traditional applications of AI algorithms. A new wave also is gravitational wave detection. Gravitational astronomy is a very interesting branch and is growing a lot. And we see new evidence from data that physical properties of the universe behave like it was theorized 100 years ago. And space debris. As I mentioned before, there is a problem of increasingly large and dense cloud of fragments, especially in low Earth orbit. And those fragments, even if they are very small, they are like a they are like a weapon. They can destroy, because of the energy, civil infrastructure or potentially damaging things. And finally, Earth observation. So the feature recognition of Earth images from space is some of the things that a lot of startups are working on now, because sometimes those images are not clean. They have clouds, they have other forms of interference, and you need to extract relevant information from them. And I will also provide a couple of final examples regarding startups. Climate is very important here because, as was highlighted during the last talk, and a few examples. Eolian. This is a company based in Turin. They do climate risk prevention with merging hydrogeological data with space information, so with Earth observation. So, and the product, what is the product? They sell climate risk indicators to clients, climate risk indicators like flood indicators, okay? And the clients, they already have a lot of paying clients. They work in the energy, infrastructure, insurance, and banking sector mostly. And Aeon is also a very cool team. They won for 2 years in a row the like best company to work for best place to work prize, and they are based in Turin. Another company, this is based in London, is called CHAI. It stands for Commodities AI. They merge traditional time series of the commodities market with space information. And why? Because if you are a large company and you need to buy a lot of commodities every month, like billions of euros, like most large companies do, even a short oscillation of the price has a huge economic impact. And basically, with the space information, they can increase the accuracy of the prediction for the evolution of prices, and this is an interesting combination of hedge fund competencies with machine learning competencies with space competencies from within the team. Another example from Turin is called ICO. ICO actually was our first investment 5 years ago. It's a company developing AI systems for space, and especially for the management of the fleets of satellites and the maintenance of satellites, and in general the whole behavior life cycle of the satellite as an autonomous object. And they are growing a lot, and they are very successful now. Final example, and I will leave you to the lunch, is called eCosmic. eCosmic, they started in Delft in Netherlands, and now they have a double office in the Netherlands and again in Turin. They build systems for space situational awareness, so in order to understand what happens in the Earth orbit, and especially for collision avoidance. Most of the algorithms are traditional mathematical models. They are not AI-based, but there is an AI layer that is added to their product, which is super interesting and going very well, and also group of women founders, which is not common for this industry, which is great. So thank you, and if you have questions, I will be happy to help.
So we have space just for one quick question.
Thank you for the talk. Just a question about the fragments and we can say the garbage that is accumulated and will be accumulated through the years. There is some startups or initiatives that has as objective recovering and cleaning the low orbit, because I think that through the years this problem will become a very big problem.
Yeah, like other environments, space is going to be polluted because humans are there, okay? There are multiple companies developing systems to reduce space debris in different layers. So there are companies trying to make space technology more reusable, okay? Then the other layer is to deorbit, so to put space satellites at the end of their life cycle in deorbiting them on Earth on a safe way, or putting them in a cemetery orbit, okay? And the third layer is collecting the garbage, I don't know the name in English, but like the sticky mosquito paper. There are companies developing that for collecting the small debris fragments and reducing pollution in space. The problem is that in my opinion, is not the technology, it's a policy one, because there is a brutal international coordination problem. It's very hard to make mandatory for companies to adopt their systems, this kind of anti-pollution systems within their operations. And my pessimistic prediction is that we will have to wait like the first major incident in order for the policy to change.